Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, with you for another episode of the Steelers Burning Question. It is my turn up to bat here. Show between myself and Brian Anthony Davis and Dave Schofield and Lance Williams, and it's my turn. And so what are we going to talk about today? A lot of you right now are probably watching the NFL divisional round of the postseason right now. As this is being recorded, the Minnesota Vikings and San Francisco 49ers are tied up 7-7. Seems to be an entertaining game so far. But hopefully there will be some people that join us on YouTube Live in the live chat. And if you didn't know we had a YouTube channel, we do. You go to youtube.com, search BTSC Steelers Radio. Subscribe to the channel. And so now, here we have the burning question for the week. And already someone's saying you're not watching the game. I took a little break from the game, wanted to do this podcast a little bit earlier to free up some time for me later in the evening. So, what is the burning question, you ask? It is, what is the Steelers' biggest team need this offseason? And there's a lot of people that might say, well, there's a lot of different ways we could answer this. And it's true. There are a lot of different ways you could answer this because you have to answer the team needs is not just always in the draft. A lot of people say, well, draft needs, or in my opinion, draft needs are different than maybe free agency needs. I might look for a veteran free agent offensive lineman and stray away from that if I don't feel that this offensive line class in the 2020 NFL draft is worthy of a high pick. You know what I mean? So it ebbs and flows in the NFL draft. Therefore, there are needs that should be addressed by free agency as well as some in the draft. But what I did, and this is something I really don't like to do very often. And Ryan Kellerman says it all depends on what the Steelers do in free agency. He quoted Dave Schofield. That's very, very true. It's such a Dave thing to say. So here is what I did, and I don't like to do this. I wrote down 6 positions that I feel are positions of need for the Steelers. Okay, and but I didn't rank them. I want to do that at the end of the little monologue here, the first 10 to 15 minutes of the show. But I don't know at this point in time where I feel that the biggest team need is. I went through and I want to say I had a couple assumptions here. And I know that when you assume, everyone knows what that means. When you assume. Here is my assumption is that the Steelers are going to have Bud Dupree at least in 2020. Okay? I'm going off the assumption that because he is their priority, that they are either going to franchise tag him or try to sign him to a long-term deal. But either way, he will be a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2020. So when I give you my list of team needs in terms of position, if you're sitting there thinking, where's outside linebacker? That's why. Because I actually think that they're going to keep Bud Dupree in 2020 in some way, shape, or form. So here's my list. And I'm going to say what the team need is. And by all means, if you're watching live on YouTube and you want to chime in and either talk about what I'm thinking or whether you have your own list, that would be awesome. Glad to see you participating in the live chat. So biggest team need, first position. Again, this is not in any particular order. I will tell you what I think is the most pressing team need towards the end of my little bit here. Running back. Running back was the first position I wrote down. I'm not sure at this point in time, I'm not sure if it's a position that I want to approach in the draft or in free agency or possibly both. I've gone on record by saying that if they don't go after a running back in some way, shape, or form, that I would be fine with the Pittsburgh Steelers' current stable of running backs that they have. It's all about how they would actually utilize those players. But running back still is going to be up there. And that could be both free agency and the NFL draft. Next position, tight end. Tight end, you have a club option for Vance McDonald, which I'm not sure if they're going to pick up. They can save some cap space if they don't let him go, if they let him walk in free agency. Or they could sign someone like Nick Vannett. But either way, Nick Vannett's a free agent as well. The only vested tight end they have on their roster that actually has some regular season experience is rookie. Well, not a rookie, but it obviously is a 2019 draft pick. And that's Zach Gentry. So the cupboard is pretty bare at the tight end position. So that's definitely going to be up there. I'm not sure if it's going to be tops on the list, but the Steelers could definitely go for, in my opinion, a veteran tight end Maybe that's Nick Vannett in free agency. Maybe it's someone else. But I think they go for a veteran tight end that's not going to cost them a ton of money. And then on top of that, I think that they could invest a draft pick in a tight end, maybe someone that's a little bit more athletic, a little bit more of a receiving threat than, say, someone like Gentry, who is not really built for that. But tight end, definitely on the list. Next, some might disagree with this, but I think wide receiver is still a position that the Steelers should target. And I think more in the NFL draft than anything else. Look, if Juju Smith-Schuster is healthy, James Washington has proven to show something. Deontay Johnson, I think, is a budding star in the league. I'm not going to say superstar, but the way that he handled his rookie season really impressed me. Okay, and so then you also have players like, obviously there's your top three, but you'll still have someone like Deion Kane was going to be vying for a position. I just think that there is room for another playmaker on offense as a wide receiver. It's not Ryan Switzer for me. I think that a wide receiver, I'm looking in the draft. I really like, from what I've seen and read in this NFL draft class, that the wide receiver group is going to be deep. And so I think that absolutely the NFL draft could be a place they could target. They are good at drafting wide receivers. Yes, they've swung and missed on a few, but they've hit more than they've swung and missed on. So that's where I would say that they should target. Next position, offensive line. And I say offensive line, and I don't say tackle, I don't say guard, I don't say center, because in my opinion, they need all of it up front. And so they have a lot of people in the live chat. I get it. A lot of people in the live chat are saying that they need to look for an early offensive lineman. And if there's someone in the second round, at the 18th pick of that round, that is considered a can't miss prospect, then I understand why you would maybe take that guard or that center or that tackle. I think the Steelers have also, along with wide receiver, have proven that they can find players in the back end of the draft or even undrafted that have come in and actually done a tremendous job and become starters, or players that get picked up after their time in Pittsburgh to become starters. Look at BJ Finney. Look at Kelvin Beachum was, I think, a 6th or 7th round draft pick. But for me, I would look for guys that are versatile, because other than Ramon Foster, who I think most people are assuming is going to be cut because he would save the team almost $4 million in salary cap space in 2020, when I look at this offensive line, I don't see a need for a drastic amount of starters. No, Pouncey did not have a good 2019, but at the same time, he's still a very good lineman. Alejandro Villanueva might have taken a step backwards, but he's still a really good left tackle in the NFL. Right tackle, if they get rid of Foster, what are they going to do with guard? I get that there's going to be some shuffling there. David DeCastro is still tremendous at guard. I don't think the Steelers need a ton of help along the offensive line. As starting comes, you want quality depth. They need that backup center. They need that player like BJ Finney, if he's not able to be re-signed, that could play guard or center. And they need some players that could be swing tackles and backup tackles, because if Chuks Okorafor or Zach Banner are called into duty, that's one less player that's not going to be available. So for me, I look at this and say that offensive line, and I know that's kind of a cop-out, because if I'm listing positions and the biggest team need, offensive line as a general term it's not specific. But interior offensive line, they need it all. They need it all. And so that's why I copped out. I apologize for that. And then I was thinking defense. I mean, these are all offensive team needs, but man, they need defense too. And they need some defense. It's not going to be a huge team. I mean, I was thinking about it going again. If you just joined us, going off the assumption that Bud Dupree is going to be back in 2020 in some way, shape, or form, I don't think they need a pass rusher, because you're still going to have TJ Watt, still going to have Bud Dupree. Do they keep Anthony Chickillo? I'm not sure. If they like Ola Adeniyi, they could keep him. If they think Tuzar Skipper could fill his role as a backup. Those are guys that are all on the roster that are all very cheap. You could cut Chickillo, save yourself a couple million towards the salary cap. And then you look at, okay, the other positions. So I put nose tackle. I'm assuming that Javon Hargrave is gone. And so I think the nose tackle is definitely a position that if you don't like, that if you don't think, and I think most fans would agree with me, that they don't think that Daniel McCullers is their every down nose tackle if they wanted to do their base defense more than they have been. If you really do believe that, then they need to find someone that's a little bit more built like Hargrave. So I definitely think that nose tackle is on that list. And then I also, and some people might say this is kind of crazy, but I think safety. No, that doesn't mean that Minkah Fitzpatrick is bad. That doesn't mean that I think Terrell Edmunds is a bust. What that means is that I think they could have a third safety. Right now, they trotted Cam Kelly, who's no longer with the team after his run-in with the law before week 17, but they had Cam Kelly as their starting safety alongside Edmunds in week 1 in Foxborough against Tom Brady. Think about that. This is a guy that was playing in the AAF last spring, and he's starting week 1 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, they need safety help. They need safety help in terms of backups. Maybe they like Marcus Allen. Maybe they like Jordan Dangerfield. But if you ask me, those guys are perennial practice squad players, and I know that they've lost their eligibility, or at least Dangerfield has. They're special teams guys. I'm looking for a third safety that the Steelers can utilize. Maybe it's someone that's bigger that could be played like more of a box in the box to stop the run type guy, or maybe it's someone that's a little bit more of a ball hawk that can really play that slot corner, that dime position, give the Steelers some versatility. So safety, and then also let's not forget that you want some quality depth in case, Lord forbid, Minkah Fitzpatrick or Terrell Edmunds gets injured. Because if one of those guys went down this past year, boy, the defense would have been in a really, really tough spot. And so those are the 6 positions that I have listed as the top team needs. And from what I've gathered so far in the live chat, a lot of you are agreeing with my 6 positions. And in case you're just joining us, I am stating that the 6 positions of need are as follows in no particular order: running back, tight end, wide receiver, offensive line, safety, and nose tackle. Okay, and so a lot of people are saying cornerback. I just don't see cornerback as a team need. Yeah, I know Joe Hayden's getting older, but he's coming off a great year. Steven Nelson, I don't think anyone's complaining about him either. And then if you look at the backups there, maybe Justin Lane takes a huge step forward in year 2, can be that quality backup. And then you also have guys like Cam Sutton who can play outside, Mike Hilton. I don't think that cornerback is really a position of need so far. But a lot of people are also saying quarterback, not corner, quarterback, the guy that throws the football. I'm not sure what you're looking for. You're not going to get a starter. You're not going to find the next Ben Roethlisberger, in my opinion, in this draft class in the second round with 18. So unless you're talking about jumping all the way up into the first round and taking a prospect that I'm not really sold on personally, then I would say that I'm not taking a quarterback this year, because if I believe Ben Roethlisberger is healthy, and if I believe that Mason Rudolph can be a backup quarterback, if I'm picking up a quarterback, it's in free agency. It's not in the draft. Well, should it find its way on the team need list? Maybe. I'm just not. I feel like I'm trying to think about the Steelers the way the Steelers would, and their approach is going to be the same that it has been the last 2 years. We're going to gamble with Ben Roethlisberger. We're going to roll the dice with our backups and hope that they're good enough. But I could see why people would want to put the quarterback position on the team needs. So here's the tough part. The tough part is answering the burning question for this episode, and that is, what is the biggest team need heading into 2020? Whether it's free agency or the draft, doesn't matter. What is the biggest team need? And I look at my list, and I think to myself, okay, running back. I'm going to say no, because you still have James Conner for 1 year, and you have Benny Snell and Kareth White. They're all young guys. They're all young. Jalen Samuels, young guy. So for me, running back gets scratched off. It's not the top team need going into the offseason. Okay, so then what about tight end? Now we might be on to something. I talked about how the cupboard is basically bare at tight end. But should that be the top need? I'm not so sure. Wide receiver, I'm going to scratch that off the list based on the fact that although I could see them drafting a wide receiver, and I could see them maybe even bringing in a veteran wide receiver, or, it could be basically middle round wide receivers. They've been good there in the second round, but I don't think it's a top team need. I really don't. Safety, Not a top team need. You're looking at depth there. So I'm going to say no. Nose tackle, I'm going to say no based on the fact that everyone, myself included, has talked about how important Ben Roethlisberger's health is for this team in 2020. And you can't deny that. That is the most basic truth that you can come across as a Steeler fan this offseason. Don't underestimate the importance of Stephon Tuitt coming back healthy and strong. Because if he comes back, the Steelers don't run as much base defense. Therefore, they're able to play Stephon Tuitt and Cam Hayward in their sub packages, meaning that when Javon Hargrave, as I predicted, is going to leave via free agency, he's not going to be missed that much because he wouldn't be playing that much. Hope that makes sense. That's a long-winded way of saying that I don't think the nose tackle position is going to be considered to be the top. And so then we get to offensive line. And I said earlier about how the offensive line depth from interior to tackle, in my opinion, can be improved. I don't know if I were to pick one position that I'm going to say is going to be, hey, this position is the number one along the offensive line, it would be guard. I do think they still have decent depth at tackle, but guard would be the position that I would say, okay, if you are in the second round and there's a player a guard that you think can come in and play on day one, you take that guard. Because if you can fill Ramon Foster's spot, even with a rookie that is a high pedigree player that has played in big games, it's going to be able to pick up the system well. You then can you're not forced to move Matt Filer to guard or to Chuks Okorafor to guard and having to search for two positions instead of just one. And so if I'm going to say offensive guard, that is a potential to be a top priority this offseason. So now it comes down to me between offensive guard and tight end. And it's really a coin flip in my mind. I don't think that there's one, and this is just me, in my opinion, I don't think there's one position that is glaringly worse or better than the other. But in this case, if I'm looking at 2020, I'm going to say tight end. I'm going to have to go with tight end as the team's biggest need heading into 2020, because even though Ramon Foster not being signed wouldn't shock anyone, I think that they would be able to make moves along their line. Like I mentioned, Filer moving to guard, Banner or Okorafor taking over at right tackle. They would have options there. At tight end, there are no options. There are no options. If they don't bring back Vance McDonald, which I've said it before on shows, I'm okay with that. Save some money. He's hurt a lot. Save some money. I do want them to re-sign Nick Vannett. I think he's more of that well-balanced blocker and pass catcher. But I want them to go out and get maybe a veteran tight end and then draft maybe I'm thinking a young Eric Ebron type, and not Eric Ebron in regards to his injury history, because he struggles to stay on the field. So think of like a Mark Andrews type player for the Baltimore Ravens. Heck, even Hayden Hurst for the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens have 3 really good tight ends. I would look for someone like that in the draft that can really open up the offense in a lot of different ways, more so than Vance McDonald did and more so than what would be expected of Nick Vannett, even if he came back. So there you have it. The answer to the burning question this week, after we all talked it out. Who am I kidding? I was talking to myself. Tight end. I think tight end is the biggest team need. And you can disagree. That is fine. I've had a lot of people I've seen in the live chat so far say that running back, finding a top tier that's their top priority. I get it. I could absolutely see how any Steeler fan that watched this past season could say, I think that running back is the most important position at this time. I totally understand that. So with that said, we're about at the 20-minute mark. This is normally when I say that there's a lot of different ways that you can help the program. You can donate money to the program if you want. You don't have to if you want. And that's by the super chat feature. And that is found where you can post a comment to the right. There should be a little $sign. Click that $. You can donate any amount of money to the program. You can ask a question. It'll be highlighted. You're guaranteed to answer it. And that money comes straight to the program. We've been saving up that money. That's how we got these new microphones for all of our hosts and things like that. So all of that, we really, really appreciate it. But if you don't want to do that, you can help us by liking our videos. That's it. Like our videos. So any video that you see, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. Hit that bell and then set up your so you can set up your notifications, whether it's email, text alert, whatever, so that you don't miss a show. And we are also on all audio platforms: Google Play, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Anchor, you name it, we are there. Find us by searching Steelers or Behind the Steel Curtain, and make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss anything. There you go. Ron Chess brings up a good point. He says, Jeff, one problem. The Steelers aren't good at drafting tight ends. It is crazy to me how you look at some teams and some general managers, some coaches, excuse me. Like I look at New England. They are awful at drafting wide receivers. Pittsburgh is tremendous at drafting wide receivers. Now you look at Baltimore and drafting tight ends. Pittsburgh is not that great at drafting tight ends. I look at the Steelers' offensive line, being able to find talent there, and then compare it to other teams that are barely getting a patchwork line together. It's always funny to me how some teams draft certain positions better than others. There's a reason why some people in the media call the Steelers the wide receiver factory, because you look at the laundry list of players that have played and been drafted by the Steelers, whether it's Mr. Third and Fifth, whether that's, Martavis Bryant, Mike Wallace, Emmanuel Sanders, who's still playing at a high level. And then like Juju Smith-Schuster, I could go on and on. So the Steelers, in terms of wide receivers, they know what they're doing. So we'll see. Captain Underpants says, Jeff, money aside, who's your top tight end for the offseason free agency or draft? Either way, not including ours. I honestly have not seen the list of free agent veterans that might be out there. Because for me, I think that, like I said, I would like to see them get 2 tight ends heading into 2020. I'm saying that number one, I want to get a veteran. So I'm seeing someone say that Eric Ebron is a free agent. I like Eric Ebron, but at the same time, do we really want to get another free agent that has a history of being injury prone? Someone said Hunter Henry. He has also had injury issues. And how much are these guys going to cost? That's another big thing. If they were to get a veteran blocking tight end, I would be fine with that. Give me a Matt Spaeth type of player via free agency, and I'll pump my fist and say good, because that's what they need. They need a guy that can block. And then if you want to look in the draft for a more athletic player, more of a pass catcher than a blocker, pumping my fist again, as I would be happy with the Steelers tight end group going into 2020. There's a lot of ifs there. So we'll see. Okay, let's see here. Shane says, can we trade back for Jesse James? I didn't realize this, and I want to say it might have been on the Steelers preview. We were talking about Jesse James and him going to Detroit, and I had no idea how he did when it came to this season. They paid him a lot of money to go there and play. Come to find out, he had a horrible year. Horrible. So bad that you're asking yourself, are they going to keep him, or is he going to be cut? If he gets cut, he'll be a free agent, in which case, there you go. You could bring him back. Do they trade for Jesse James? No. Why would you? No, they don't trade Jesse James, but like Black Steel says, James will be a cap casualty, in which case, if he's not drawing any interest in the free agent market, you say, hey, we could always have you come back to Pittsburgh. Love to have you. We're not going to pay you as much as everyone else is going to, but love to have you, and we'll see. I'm not sure. We'll see. Someone said that Ben made Jesse James an $18 million man. Good for him. And that's not the only player that has played with Ben Roethlisberger and gone on to make a lot of money. And a large part of it should be a thank you to number 7. So there you have that. Any other questions that you all might have, you can fire away in the live chat, and I'd be glad to help you as much as I can with the Yep. Brad Jewett says he said, give me a second. I'm going to look at the free agent tight end. So until he comes back with that information, let's move on to the next question. Okay. Here he says, he's back. We're quick. He said Eric Ebron, Hooper, Hunter Henry, and Jack Doyle. Those are some names that are interesting. Very interesting names there. We'll see. Zach says, who is your running back one next year? It can't be Connor, right? Look, I said this the other day. I would love to see the Steelers say, we don't have an RB1 on the depth chart. We don't have a running back one on the depth chart, period. And so when you can say that, like, we don't have a top running back, you would say that it's going to be a situational game between James Conner, Benny Snell, Kareth White, and Jalen Samuels. Those are going to be your 4 guys you're going to run through the season with. Here's the thing, and this is a concern that I have as well, and that is that the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't know if they know how to play an offense with a running back by committee. And that scares me because that's what I think would be the best thing for this team moving forward. So we'll see. We'll see. But I think that James Conner comes into this season as as the RB1, running back 1. Okay, Snowman puts $5 in the tip jar. We appreciate the donation. He said, we can't sign too many free agents with the cap space problems. And that's true. But to Snowman, to answer part of your question, I think that for me, they're going to restructure some deals and they're going to create some space because they're going to have to create, I want to say it's somewhere between $14 and $16 million if they franchise tag Bud Dupree. If they do that, they have to have that space on the books already. So I would look at players like Joe Hayden. I would look at players like Marquise Pouncey. I would look at even Ben Roethlisberger that got a new deal last year, and to really help them, if they restructure, help them save some space. That's what I would do. And that way they can make some moves. That's a big thing for me. Ali says that the Steelers need to run the offense how the 49ers use 3+ backs. I agree 100%. You watch some of the 49ers, the Steeler fans saw the 49ers in week 3 this year. And they are a versatile running attack. They could learn something from that. I then think back to the Steelers offensive coordinator and I get dejected. So there you have that. All right. Realtree says, if J.K. Dobbins from Ohio State was on the board, would you draft him? And this is the tough situation for me. If I put myself in Kevin Colbert's shoes and you have your team needs, and this comes down to, do you draft by need or do you draft by position? Well, so a lot of people would say that the Steelers have done this in the past, especially like with Artie Burns. They looked at cornerback as their biggest team need. And when William Jackson III was off the board, they knee-jerk reaction was to take the next guy. And that wasn't by position. So do you go with the best player by position or do you go with positional rankings? So for me, if Dobbins, I think that was the guy's name that you're talking about. If he is on Dobbins from Ohio State, if he's on the board and they think he's the second best running back or the top 5, take him. Sure. Captain Underpants with another similar question. If Jalen Hurts is available at 50, do you draft him? Jalen Hurts, I don't know. Someone has suggested that could the Steelers use him like this New Orleans Saints used Taysom Hill? I don't know. I honestly I don't watch a lot of college football, and if I do watch college football, I'm probably not going to be watching the Big 12. He played for Oklahoma, but he also played for Alabama. Maybe you take a gamble with that and you try to use him in different ways. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. I'm trying to see. I saw a couple others here. I know I saw the Oklahoma State running back. He was really good. Someone says that Steelers missed out on Josh McDaniels' big mistake. Steelers finished 3rd in the division next year. Book it. Look, if the Steelers finish 3rd next year, a lot of people aren't going to be surprised, but it's not going to be because Josh McDaniels is not with the team, not in my opinion. So for me, I'm not. That doesn't really bother me too much. Even if he goes to Cleveland, I don't trust that guy anyways. And not a guy that went to Indianapolis, agreed to terms on a deal, and then basically backed out and said, I don't want to come here anymore. Well, that's fine. I'm pretty sure they're happy with Frank Reich. He's a great coach. So, all right. I didn't want this to be a long show because I knew a lot of people were going to be watching the games right now, and it's just something where it's a good talking point. Okay, it's a good think about the offseason type episode. Nothing is going to be set in stone, as Dave Schofield will say. It depends on who the Steelers bring back. Free agency and the draft will all be dictated by that. The Steelers can start making some moves whenever they want. Their season's over. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle some of these positions and how they definitely look for everything in that regard. So I want to say that tomorrow, Sunday, probably after the late game, which I think is at 6:15 or something like that. So probably tomorrow around 9 p.m. Myself, maybe Dave Schofield or Lance Williams, I'm not sure. We will be on the air talking about the playoffs and the upcoming championship weekend. And Brian Anthony Davis says that no one was sold on Lamar Jackson either. That's true. He's talking about Jalen Hurts. Zach puts $4.99 in the tip jar and says, thanks, Jeff and BTSC. No, thank you guys for spending some time with us and talking about the Steelers. I always look at these people that are in the live chat and they're always in here. You all are diehards. I love it. I love it. There's no off season for the true Steeler fan, in my opinion. You guys epitomize that absolutely. So make sure you like this video. We appreciate all the support that you give, whether it's financially through the super chats or whether it's just by liking our videos and sharing them. We really, really appreciate it. Pittsburgh Steeler fans, as Lance Williams always says, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe. I'm Jeff Hartman, and next week you'll have Lance Williams on for another Steelers burning question. In the meantime, enjoy the divisional games, the playoffs this weekend. We'll see you next time.